23-24 Premier League season is almost ready to begin, and in this video I'm going to take a look at all 20 Premier League teams and predict whereabouts they're going to finish in the table. Let's do this. So ladies and gents, before I get into my predictions, I thought I'd go quite neutral and wear an old school Hereford United away top. Let me know in the comments below if you're from Hereford. Probably not, but something you've probably done is in your own predictions you've probably put Luton Town as finishing bottom of the table, number 20 in the list. Unfortunately, I've put they could possibly get fewer points than Derby did. Derby are the team to get the fewest points in Premier League history. That was in the 07-08 season. Unfortunately, it could be a reality this year with Luton Town. I think they'll start quite well. I think they're away to Brighton possibly in game week 1. I think they'll play well. But I think at best, I think they're going to come out with a draw, but I think they're going to put in a great performance. They're going to go into the Premier League with a lot of momentum, a lot of excitement. It's very much a fairy tale story. Luton have skyrocketed through the leagues from non-league football. I can't remember his name. They do have a player in their squad who has been in that squad since they were in non-league football all the way to Premier League football. So I know most of us are going to be behind Luton Town. But yeah, unfortunately, Luton Town at number 20. I am going to try and get to Kenilworth Road this year, as well as all other 19 Premier League clubs. So stay tuned and subscribe to the channel for that one. Coming in at number 19, again, probably quite a predictable one. I know last season we had all newly promoted teams survive, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth and Fulham. But unfortunately this year I do think 2 out of the 3 will get relegated, and that second one being Sheffield United. I've got Sheffield United there just by the fact that I'm just looking and comparing at all the squads, and I just don't feel like they've got enough to survive. I know they've just lost, is it Unday? I can never pronounce the name. Unday to Marseille. He was a childhood Marseille fan apparently, and that's definitely killed their momentum because they had a great striker up top. And yeah, they've got to try and scramble around now and find another guy up top to fight for points, get goals to survive. Unfortunately, Sheffield United, number 19. Number 18, I've got Bournemouth. Now this one I've been back and forth on. Put here they've got Ira, I can't pronounce names, I do apologise. He's in, taking over Gary O'Neill. It caused a bit of a stir. Everyone thought Gary O'Neill did a great job last year. Some were even saying he could have been Premier League Manager of the Year. He didn't get that title, and unfortunately he's lost his job. I do feel like that's going to bite them in the ass like a rabid dog. I do feel like, unfortunately, Bournemouth have got a bit cocky. They've got rid of a manager who's doing well. Iriola, however you say it, let me know in the comments below. I think he's going to come in with some momentum, and unfortunately I don't think Bournemouth are going to have enough to survive. That said, from number 18 all the way up to number 12, I think it's going to be really close, similar to a couple of months before the end of last year. I've got number 17 as being Fulham, and I put that they're going to survive by the skin of their teeth. Fulham have got some decent players, don't get me wrong, and I know a lot of you are going to be shaking your head with this prediction, but we've already got Mitrovic, who wanted to move to Saudi Arabia. He's already causing some trouble. He did refuse to go on Fulham's pre-season tour. He's there. I don't know, I just feel like they're going to be the underachievers of the Premier League this season. Fulham at number 17. I've got number 16 being Nottingham Forest. They could have gone down last year. They were very, very close. But I put one name, Anthony Elanga. Now, as a United fan, sorry if you're not a United fan, as a United fan, I was very glad to get rid of Anthony Elanga. Not because he's a bad player, he's just one of those who you look at when he's in the starting lineup and you're like, oh, Elanga's playing. You know, he doesn't fill you with any excitement, and I think that alone kind of puts Nottingham Forest at like a 16th place. Elanga's a good player, but I just don't feel like they've got enough to progress up the table. Next on the predictions, I've got Everton. Now this is Everton's final season at Goodison Park, and obviously it's been a struggle over the past couple of years. I do feel like Sean Dyche is going to get him in order, but that said, what have Everton really done since the struggles of the last couple of years? They've not really done much in the transfer market. They've got some good players, he's suffered with injuries, but I just feel like Sean Dyche is going to really, really struggle with what he's got this year. It's going to be a little bit like Burnley back in the day. I think they'll be, I'll put them at 15th by the way, so I think they'll be safe. Number 14, as I look at my list, I'm a little bit shocked actually I put them this high. I've got Wolves. Obviously they've lost Ruben Neves. Really sorry about my pronunciations. They've lost him, their best player, to Saudi Arabia, and I do feel like they'll suffer. Ironically, I've kind of got them finishing fairly high for that fact. I've got them at 14, but again, I think this could really be interchangeable. There's going to be 1 or 2 points separating all these clubs from 12th all the way down to the relegation zone. For that reason, I've got Wolves at 14. Number 13, I've got West Ham. I've got West Ham at 13, which I suppose is a bit of an improvement from last year. But for the fact that they're also going to be playing Europa League this year, I do feel like playing on Thursdays definitely impacts your weekend's games. We found it with Man United last year, they just lost their legs towards the end. I do feel like West Ham are going to get hit from playing European football, but the obvious one, they've lost Declan Rice, they've lost the captain, they've lost their star player, and regardless of whatever they do, putting in cheeky little £20 million bids for United players, stop it West Ham, naughty naughty. I do feel like they're going to suffer, definitely going to suffer. So I've got West Ham at 13, which I suppose isn't an awful place. And then finally, within that big scrap amongst teams that could possibly get relegated, I've got Brentford. Again, they've lost their star man until, was it January? They've lost Ivan Toney. They're not going to have the goals that Ivan Toney produces, the target man up top. And yeah, I do feel like it's definitely going to cause them to slip in to the lower half of the table. But nonetheless, 12th place is quite good for Brentford. Let me know in the comments below, guys. All of those could be interchangeable. Looking at it now, I think maybe Fulham have got more than some of the teams above them. I could probably bump Fulham up a little bit, and I might drop Forest down, drop Everton down, drop Wolves down, and I might put Fulham above. But I've done my predictions now. Number 12, Brentford. As we get out of that little scrap, I've got Crystal Palace at 11th. In a similar position to last year. I think they're going to be safe. I think they've got enough there. They've got some decent players, and I just think they're generally better than the teams below them. In number 10, I feel like every season you've got a newly promoted team that does well. Obviously, all three survived last year. Fulham did really well. I feel like this year that team is going to be Burnley. Obviously, Company smashed the Championship last year, and I do feel like that momentum that followed Fulham into last year's season will follow Burnley into this year's season. I think they'll do well, and I've got Burnley finishing just inside the top half of the table at 10th. And at 9th, I've got Brighton slipping down a little bit. Again, not too bad a position for Brighton, but again, similar to West Ham, for the fact that they've got European football, they've done all right actually to hold on to most of their players. Still got Matoma, Caicedo as of right now, but they've lost McAllister to Liverpool. I don't think that's going to be enough to completely deteriorate their momentum though, and I've got Brighton at 9th. Number 8, it just feels like an 8th place kind of season for Tottenham, regardless of whether they keep Harry Kane or whether they lose Harry Kane. Obviously, Harry Kane's goals come in abundance. He single-handedly kind of keeps Tottenham up there, but I just feel like Tottenham are destined for 8th place this season. I like Tottenham, so I don't want to be one of those that kind of rip on Tottenham all the time. But unfortunately, I just feel like, yeah, 23, 24, they're destined for 8th place. Now above Spurs, again, I've got a bit of a scrap for that final Champions League position. I've actually put Chelsea at 7th. But similar to that bottom table little scrap, at the top, it's going to be very close between the teams above them. I've got Chelsea at 7th place. They'll do better than last season. They can't really do any worse. Pochettino is kind of getting some order within the team. It's really hard because I've just done my Fantasy Premier League team, which we'll do a video on very, very soon. And it was hard to kind of pick Chelsea players because it's hard to know, like there's been so much turmoil over the past year, it's hard to know what is going to be their starting 11 week in, week out. They've not got European football to worry about. So for that reason, I was tempted to put them higher, but I feel like they're just building the foundations now. They've got a very young squad. I don't think they'll have enough to kind of just get them up there in those Champions League spots, but I don't think they'll be far off. So I don't mean to discourage Chelsea by putting them in 7th. I do feel like they'll be a few points away from 4th place. Above them though, big fan of his. They do have European football next year. The king of Europa type competitions. I know they're in a Conference League. Unai Emery is a top manager and a top bloke. I'm going to watch Villa against Everton in game week 2 possibly on the Sunday around 2 o'clock. So really looking forward to that one. I love what Emery's doing at Villa. They made some good signings. Diaby is going to be really good. And for that reason, I do feel like Villa will clinch 6th place and get some Europa League for the following season. At 5th, I've got Newcastle. I do feel like they'll drop a place down from last year. I think they'll be decent, but early prediction right now, I kind of think Eddie Howe might get the sack this year. I think it'll be a little bit like when Chelsea had Ranieri and they got to like the Champions League semi-final. I think they finished second that season, and then they sacked him, got Mourinho. I think a similar thing will happen. There'll be a controversial sacking at the end of the season for the fact that Newcastle missed out on Champions League football. Then I think they'll get a big name in like Mourinho or someone like that. I think that's an early prediction for like a year away. But there we go, Newcastle at number 5, by no means a bad position for them. 4th, I've got Liverpool. I do think Liverpool will get Champions League this year. I know they've got to play Europa League, which isn't ideal, but Man United managed to do that last year and get into the Champions League. I think Liverpool will have a very similar season to Manchester United. I think they'll clinch Champions League football and they might get a cup. I think they might get a Carabao Cup, possibly an FA Cup. I do think it'd be a decent season, but very much a transitional season for Liverpool. Now at number 3, I've got Manchester United playing in the glorious new away strip. Now if you think this isn't a nice kit, you are very much wrong. Let me know in the comments below. That is probably the nicest away kit in the Premier League this season. Above that gorgeous Arsenal yellow and blacky blue type kit, above Liverpool's green and I'm sure you Liverpool fans right now will agree, out of your green and white kit and our green and white kit, our green and white kit is way nicer than yours, Liverpool fans. I'm sure you will agree. Shut up, right. So yeah, I do feel like at the start, similar to last year, there will be a slight 3-horse race. I think United will finish 3rd. I think they'll get closer than they did last season, but I do think they'll drop off at the end. They made some great signings this year. Rasmus Højlund, it kind of is one of those. If Højlund hits the ground going, I think we'll do all right. There's inevitable comparisons. There already is between him and Haaland, but I do think that he's still young. I don't think he's going to quite send United to where they want to be fighting for the Premier League. They're going to come closer. Hopefully Casemiro doesn't get sent off as often. I think Mount is a workhorse, but similar to when I looked at the starting lineup and I'd see Elanga playing for Man United, I can't lie, I did a similar thing with Mount in England. I'd always look at England's starting lineup and think, we got Mount playing. I just really didn't know what he added to the squad. I need to eat those words right now because Mount's come to United and I've got to see Mount on that team sheet week in, week out. Let's hope he proves me wrong, proves us. I'm not a doubter. I am pleased with the Mount signing. We did need legs in the midfield, but it's kind of make or break season right now. If we don't progress on last year, who knows what's going to happen following on from that. But controversially, I've got Manchester City finishing 2nd, which would make Arsenal the Premier League champions. As much as it pains me to say that, because I am a 90s kid, born in 89, grew up in the 90s, and as a United fan who isn't from Manchester, I still look at Arsenal as my biggest rival. Arsenal caused me so much pain in the late 90s, early 2000s. I really didn't like Arsenal as a kid. I've kind of made peace with them. They've got some great players like Saka. They've also made some great signings this season as well. You've got Rice, obviously. Havertz, everyone's a bit unsure on, can do well. But they've got... The reason I put Arsenal above Manchester City is the fact that City have lost Gundogan to Barcelona. They've got Kovacic. I don't think he's as good. I think City have definitely possibly weakened their squad from last year. They're going to probably be feeling the hangover, especially Jack Grealish, from winning the treble. The pressure's going to be on. Everyone's going to expect them to deliver. And usually Pep handles the pressure, and I think it'll be very, very, very close. But I think that strength in depth that Arsenal have now got, they've got so many good players in different positions. I think Arsenal will go all the way and City will finish in 2nd place. It's going to be tight, but I think they can do it. I think City might retain the Champions League. They're definitely not going to have a poor season, but I do feel like this season is the season for Arsenal as the 23-24 Premier League champions. So there we have it. There are my predictions for the 23-24 season. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree. I could be off my head. I could be completely wrong. It'd be fun to look back at the end of the season. And stay tuned as we make our predictions for game week 1. And also I'm going to show you my FPL team, my Fantasy Premier League team for game week 1 as well. But do not fear, obviously this is normally the 90s nostalgia. Normally this is full of 90s football items. Obviously we're having a bit of a makeover up in the spare room at the moment, but we haven't completely abandoned 90s content. We'll be back with more 90s nostalgia very soon. So if that tickles your fancy, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you very, very soon.